Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you for being here today. My name is Michael Moretta. I come from San Antonio. I was a teacher for 22 years. Then I was an assistant principal, or dean of student affairs, also known as a disciplinarian. Then I was a principal, and I then was a superintendent for 2 years, and I hated it with a passion. Hated it. I resigned at a board meeting and said, that's it. They come back, call me the next day, and they say, man, we want you to help do high schools again. You do high schools so good. We want you to be a high school principal, do turnaround high schools. This is a DISD. And so I spent 3 2-year stints doing turnaround schools. One of the things I did was I'd go into a high school, and I'd take a look at the teachers that had been there for 20 plus years, and they were tired. I got rid of them. I hired you, alternative certification teachers between the ages of 25 and 50. That was my goal. I had more success hiring you than keeping jaded older teachers that didn't want to be there, that were collecting a paycheck. So, that's who I am. My goal today is to make sure you have all the shortcuts and strategies you need to pass this test. That's my job. There's 4 things I'm going to tell you about that are crucial, that are essential, that you're going to have to get. There'll be 4 key things. You listen and follow the 4 key things, then you're going to be able to have a good, successful opportunity to pass this. If you think in any way, shape, or form that this test is symbolic of what you do in the classroom, you're wrong. Can I get a witness? It's in a perfect world. That's the first thing you're going to listen to and remember. In a perfect world. In a perfect world, this is what it looks like. SPED teachers, raise your hand. May the Lord bless you and keep you in the palm of his hand. Everything you do in your classroom and everything on this test is diametrically opposed. You're celebrating that the child was able to not hit another child for 45 minutes. You're celebrating that, and they're going to talk about things in this test that you have, like, don't even deal with ever in your life, ever. CTE teachers, career technology. May the Lord bless you and keep you in the palm of his hand. Everything you do with your curriculum is based on, most of the time from UNT or programs like that create your curriculum and you're guided. What you do in your classrooms is going to be different than what happens in this test. My favorite, my boys and girls, PE teachers, raise your hand. Only 2? Where's 3? Your job is to take 60 children, put them in order, and do exercises. There's no desks. There's nothing. Your world is totally different than the gen ed teacher. Your job is crowd control. Your job is engagement with 50 to 63-year-olds to 5-year-olds to 7-year-olds to 12-year-olds. On this test, you're going to have to take a look at things you've never seen before. Make sense? Now that we got that out of the way, everybody else is gen ed. Am I missing anybody? ELA, social studies, all that. So contained classrooms, high school. How many high school teachers? Good, it'll be a little bit different for you. And then elementary. You have it the easiest by virtue of 90% of the questions are based on looking at elementary teachers doing their thing. You'll see it. A 1st grade teacher, a 2nd grade teacher, this 6th grade teacher, this rubric, this. Those are the things that you're going to go, I know this, and you'll get it. Okay? Make sense? I'm going to chunk this for you. I'm going to chunk this so you see how it works together. Definition, the pedagogy, the art, science, or profession of teaching. That's what pedagogy means. The first thing you remember, it's the art, science of teaching, and you're going to open your mind up, and you're not going to think about this test as, You're going to chunk it, bits at a time, like you teach your kid to take a test. You chunk it. Pedagogy is the art, science, or profession of teaching. So in a perfect world, what you're doing is you're getting information and applying it to scenarios. And we're going to talk about how it's broken down. How many people have taken the practice test on TexasTeachers thing? Good. You're a minority. Why are you tested? Because the state of Texas and TEA says you have to be tested. That's why. People blame TEA for everything. It's true. I'm a monitor for TEA. So I go to a school, it's an IR for like the 40th year in a row or something, and I go back and I try to help them. My job is to help them. TEA only does what the legislature says to do. TEA is the administrative arm of the legislators. So you have legislators come in and go, we think this is the best way to do education. And we're going to hire our friends to consult with TEA, and then they're going to get paid good money, and they're going to make a test. Sometimes you laugh because it's funny. Sometimes you laugh because it's true. It's true. That's how it works. Did anybody ask any of the teachers you know to help do a pedagogy test? Is there anybody in the trenches doing it, helping create these tests? No. No. Reality check number 1. Perfect world. Reality check number 2. You didn't create this test. Somebody's friend created this test, and they made a lot of money doing it. It's like hiring Pearson. Pearson's the big box of education. And these people, they're supposed to be like people like me, retired people, you know? No. They hire anybody they want. They say, okay, now find a curriculum, do this stuff, and talk to these 2 professors. Reality check number 2, this test will not make sense sometimes. You're going to want to answer a question which you think really happens. If you do that, you're making a huge mistake. We got that so far. Everybody's feeling it, right? You're tested because they want to make sure you're tested, you know what you're doing. What is the significance? You don't get your certification unless you pass the test. And it's not that hard, as long as you keep these 4 things in mind. Philosophical determinations. Why did I put that up there? Just to see if you're paying attention. Let's move on. I want you to think, why am I teaching? I want you to go back before you were teaching with that bright-eyed look you had. And I want you to come think about why you started teaching, right before you got your job, right? And everybody was going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and all the children would be sitting at their desk going, oh, call on me. Oh, and every kid's doing that. And there was no behavior problems, and there was no issues. And your mentor teacher was really a mentor teacher. Right, guys, let's go. And your mentor teacher really helped, besides collecting the extra stipend. Okay? And everybody was so happy. And life was beautiful. At the 6-week mark, you were looking tired. You get out of bed in the morning and go, dang, what am I doing? Why did I do this? This is so hard. I can't believe I'm doing, these kids are driving me nuts. There's 2 boys in the back of the class, I swear I'm going to kill them. It's always 2 boys in the back of the class. Always. Now I want you to go back to that place before you started teaching. I want you to remember the fantasy you had. I want you to think about that fantasy. And I want you to think about your beliefs, your philosophy, and your mission. Your beliefs, your philosophy, and your mission. What motivated you? What made you get into teaching? And after the 6-week mark and those first grades come out, don't think about that right now. Think about that perfect world. You have to have that mindset. If you answer questions with a reality frame of reference, you're not going to do very well. You're going to see an answer. You're going to say, man, that's exactly what happens. Right. And you're going to say to yourself, I'm not picking that one. We're going to go through that today. In a perfect world, how is it tested? Here's when we start chunking it. So if you're going to take notes, if you really want to focus on chunking this information, now's the time to start. Scenarios. You read a scenario, and then you answer questions. You read a scenario, and you're going to answer questions. There'll be 2 to 3 questions for each scenario. That's how the test looks. And these scenarios are based on things we're going to talk about throughout the day. At this point, when you see a scenario question, I want you to think common sense. If you attack this test like 90% of teachers do with this tunnel vision, I'm just going to churn out one question at a time. I'm going to get the answer. I'm going to keep moving. Boom, boom, like a machine. That's what I do. You do that, you're going to get lost in your tunnel vision. Just like you tell your students, when you see a scenario, you read it 3 times. You're going to find something, I guarantee you, you'll find something different than you saw the second time until the 3rd time. Read a scenario 3 times. Because they're trying to trick you. If anybody told you life was fair in the pedagogy world, they lied to you. You need to read that and look at that. You're going to see these little graphs and charts. You look at that graph and chart, and you study that graph and chart, because the data in there is going to change every time you look at it. You're going to go, wait, I didn't see that. Wait, I didn't see that. If you get tunnel vision and do it once and burn through this test and attack it, you're not going to do well. You've got to open up. You've got to look at it twice, 3 times. You've got like 100 hours to take it. It's 80, 90 questions. This is not like rocket science. But if you churn and burn, you're going to burn out. Open up. Look at the question. Look at the scenario 2, 3 times. Take a breath, then answer. Make sense? I'm going to say this 100 times. If you take this test with tunnel vision and you dial into it and burn through it, you're not going to be as successful as you could be. I guarantee you. Question 1. What's the answer? D. I'm going to tell you the hint number 2. If I were you, I'd write this down. Hint number 2. I got everybody's attention now. I got eye contact. I got everything, man. Everybody's dialing in. Here it goes. I love this. You ready? Everybody's ready. If the question has contact a parent in it, 9 out of 10 times you're going to pick that answer. If the question has an answer that says contact parent, 9 out of 10 times you're going to pick that answer. Why? In a perfect world. Thank you. Thank you. Now, they don't say, there's not a caveat that says, I've tried to contact this parent 47 times, and they never returned my call. Or the parent is now incarcerated. Sometimes you laugh because it's funny. Sometimes you laugh because it's true. So that part doesn't matter to you. What matters to you is in what? A perfect world. In your reality, when you go back and teach, and you're trying to get a hold of a parent, and you start doing home visits. I had my teachers do home visits. You're not coming to me, we'll come to you. We'll bring barbecue and eat, sit in your front yard and eat. People came. They all live there. In a perfect world, keeping that in mind, the question has to think about a parent, something about contacting a parent. 9 out of 10 times you're going to pick that answer. Make sense? Parent contact. It's a cause to effect relationship. Who's responsible for the child in the long run? The parent, not you. Even though you're the social worker, the nose wiper, even though you do all those things, don't think egocentric. Don't think you're the one. Even though you are, In this test, it's a perfect world. Number 2, what's the answer? B. Great. 2 types of questions. Scenarios and pedagogy. And I'm going to tell you what things you have to learn. You're going to have to memorize. We're going to go through that today. You will have to memorize 3 key areas in chunks. There's no getting around it. You can do an acronym, you can do all this stuff, but you're going to have to memorize some things. It's not a lot, but when you memorize it, you'll see, and I'm going to tell you how many, I went through this whole test, I went through how many questions in each section of different categories, and we're going to go through that today. Number 3, what's the answer? B. Tell me context. What's the first thing you look for in this question? First thing you look for in the context, to answer the question. What is it? There's vocab. What's the vocab? Tell me.
Strength and improvement.
Strength and improvement. And then the second thing we look at is what?
Strategy.
The word strategy. Over and over. These are strategies. And the third thing we look at is age. An elementary kid. Now, you're a teacher in high school. You're going to go, no, man, I'm going to pick something different. Read the question. Don't be egocentric. Read the question. An elementary child. Well, I teach high school. I don't care what you teach. They don't care when they're grading the test. It's just age-appropriate things to do. Age-appropriate things to do. I never taught elementary school in my life. I taught high school principal, high school AP. And the pedagogy used to be really different than this test when I first took it. Much more realistic. But they changed by virtue of the legislature. But I missed the ones I missed because I was thinking, a first grader, and I thought, oh no, this is a great rubric for, my freshmen or my juniors. It said a first grader. Why am I reading in to this? I guarantee if you don't read it and pull back, you'll make a mistake at least 3 times, not looking at the age appropriateness of the activity. Make sense? Cool. Number 4, what's the answer? B. No, D, right. B is the... I always go to my superintendent and ask things. He has an open door. She has an open door policy. Hey, Michael Moretta, good to see you again. Can we sit and chat for a while today? Who does not know what a regional center is? Raise your hand. Don't. You need to find out. Here's your homework. If you don't know what a regional center is, you get on the internet and you look up and you peruse the whole thing of what a regional center does. Number 5. What kind of question is this? No, it's not. These are straight out cause to effect. You'll see scenarios in a minute. What's it asking you about? It's asking you about what? CM, the big CM. What everybody says you don't have enough of your first year. Look at you. Look at you. Smile. That is a cute smile, kid. Classroom management. It's a management. You need to know their strategies. Some of you work in schools where the classroom management is not very clear about what your standards are. That's a good way to put it, right? And then you work in schools that your administrators don't support the teachers in the interventions and consequences. So, you're not going to think about your world. You're going to think about a perfect world. You guys are getting the mantra, the cadence. Perfect world, perfect world. Okay? We got it. We got it. At this point, I want you to write down any reflections you have. Anything I've said, anything that your peers have said, make a note. That's going to help you dial into taking this test. Just take a moment, pull back, write personal reflections. Where are you at? What have you gotten so far? We're all dialed in. We're getting our hints. Personally, take a minute to reflect. Now we're going to do the next step. And the next step is a blast. I'm going to explain this to you. And as a group, here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of a scenario that has happened to you in your school. And what you're going to do is you're going to write down the scenario and you're going to do a multiple choice question. And you're going to create 4 answers. You're going to make a test question, basically. When I was teaching high school, I had this thing. And what I did was I had my students make all the tests. We all brainstorm. Okay, what do you guys want to know now? They make up these things. They get in your small groups. Let's do our research. And they do the research. They come back. And I'd say, okay, what did you guys learn? Tell me what you all learned. And we'd sit there and they'd go, oh, we learned this and this. I said, great. So each group told us something they learned. And I said, okay, now, check this out. You guys are going to make your own test. And what you learned, turn it into a question, right? So the kids got into it, and the high school kids. These are not third graders, age appropriate. And they got into it. And then who's responsible? And they come to me after, they're going to roll up on me and go, hey, Mr. Ram, these are trick questions. I'd say, what the heck are you talking about, son? You made the questions. You got the information. You made the questions. You guys created the questions. Back in the day, they used to take these other tests. My kids had 100% pass rate. 100% pass rate. Every year I taught. 100%. They took ownership, and I manipulated them, which is the art of teaching. It's the art of manipulation, right? Of course. Therapy and teaching is the art of manipulation. To make changes. And the kids took responsibility for these questions, and they owned it. And they couldn't roll back up on me and go, man, you're trying to mess with us. I'm not messing with you. You made the question, son. I want you to do the same thing. I want you to think of a scenario, and I want you to talk together, and I want you to create a scenario and 4 answers. Only 1 right answer, 1 close answer, and 2 stupid answers. Okay? Which is what the test is about, right? And every test, there's 4 answers. 1's perfect, 1's almost perfect, and 2 are stupid. You guys are very interactive with each other. That's a good thing. The more you talk, the more you hear other people talk. One group, our PE teacher, God love him, man. Goes, you know, man, ELL stuff is going to be all over that test. ELL stuff is going to be all over that test. You know that's true. 20% of all the questions are on ELL. 20%. I've broken this test down over and over again. English language learners. We're going to talk about that as a chunk later on. It's one of those things you're going to have to memorize. That's all there is to it. You're going to have to memorize the categories from the TELPUS test. What the heck's a TELPUS test? Don't worry about it. We're going to get to it. It's one of the 3 major things. Remember, number 2 is parents. If it has a parent answer in it, you're going to pick that answer 9 out of 10 times. You're going to know ELL. You're going to have to know ELL. And there's vocab you're going to have to know. And I've taken out all the high frequency words for you, and I've put them into a thing. A nice little chart and list. If you do and follow what I tell you to do today, you will pass. If you vary from the course and become egocentric in your ways and try to answer not in a perfect world, you will not do good. Let's hear a couple scenarios, doggone it. Who would like to share theirs?
Middle school science teacher notices that a student's grades are a little lower than usual since the class began chemistry unit. After contacting the parent to discuss the find they do not speak English, the teacher should A. Have student translate for them. B. Document, attempt, and try again later. C. Contact district for translator. Or D. Attempt to have a conversation.
Okay, do the 4 again. We got a parent doesn't speak English. How many people have ever encountered this? Gee, I'm shocked. Why? That is not a realistic question at all. You are in some other world. Okay. You're going to get a question just like this. Did you cheat and went ahead and looked at the questions? No. You promise? Okay.
I don't believe him.
I know, right? Because there's one almost identical to this coming up. No, I believe you. So, say it again. A, B, C, and D. Listen, listen, listen.
A. Have student translate.
Have student translate for them. Raise your hand if you want that one. B.
B. Document, attempt, and try again later.
Document, attempt, and try again later. How many chose that one? Don't. You would look stupid. Good. That's a good answer. C.
C. Contact district for translator.
How many vote for contact district for translator? And D?
D. Attempt to have a conversation.
Don't pick D. That's you find yourself talking louder because who knows why we do that? Because, right, they're deaf and Hispanic or Asian or whatever, right. Do you understand me? Okay. Help me understand why people do that. It's like the stupidest thing. What's the answer?
We intended it for C, yes.
Got it. Right. Your district has a resource. In a perfect world, all they do is sit around and wait. Right? And the phone rings. Translator, be there in 10. Translator, I'll be right over. Sign language, I'll be right there. In a perfect world. Good. Next, who is next?
In a third grade classroom, a student frequently falls asleep during class. What action should be taken? A, send student to the nurse. B, make a phone call to parent. C, let student sleep. Or D, call superintendent.
Okay, how many choose B? B as in boy? Good. Now, we know call the parent, but she said the word continuously falling asleep. That's crucial. First time the kid falls asleep, you're not going to call the parent. You get on your iPhone right next to the kid and go, right here, she's falling asleep again. Okay, that's not how we do it. But the first time the kid starts drowsing off, you're like, come on, sit up, come on, stand up, come here. How? M&Ms, go ahead. Here we go. Oh, good. We're doing it. Now, the key word was constantly and continuously. Perfect. When in doubt? Perfect. Who's the next one?
A teacher utilizes popsicle sticks to have randomization when calling on students in the classroom. A student blurts out, why can't we just raise our hand like in every other class? What is the best way for the teacher to handle this situation?
Okay, wait. God, this is so good. This is like elementary one, though. High school teachers just kind of play with it, okay?
That was high school.
You guys use puppet stickers in high school? They do?
Yes.
Oh, it's total Socratic method. Walk around the class, nobody knew who was going to call on. And you. Go Go ahead.
Okay, so A, immediately stop your lesson and tell them why you choose to use popsicle sticks. B, ignore the student to continue with your lesson. C, ask the student to step outside and have a conversation about why his actions were wrong. Or D, write the student up and let the principal handle it.
I choose D. When in doubt, kick him out. Go. You'll have 4 kids left in your classroom. 4 little girls in the front of your class going, I'm so good. Okay, one more time. The kid rolls up on the teacher and goes, hey, why are you using popsicle? Why can't you raise your hands like everybody else's class? Again, A?
A was immediately stop your lesson and tell them why you choose to use popsicle sticks.
Wait, stop. How many choose A? Okay. Right, we process automatically. Children, let me explain this to you. Versus, shut the heck up. B?
B is ignore the student and continue with your lesson.
Somebody choose B? Woo! Woo! C. Read C.
C is ask the student to step outside and then have a conversation about why his actions were wrong.
C. And then we throw out D. Okay. Tell us your answer and why.
You said C because
Say now. What was C?
C was ask the student to step outside and then have a conversation with them.
Okay. Wait. Shh. Hold on. Wait. All the guy wants to do is explain himself. Can you all give him a chance for a second? Wait. Shh, come on, y'all.
The key to that is that it's not that the child is asking a question, it's that it's blurted out. It becomes a classroom management. So that's why we step outside.
Can we possibly give feedback to him? One at a time. Okay. Wait, no, hold on. Right there. UT.
Okay, I would have honestly said A because that's an explanation you can give real quickly. We use popsicle sticks to randomize it, to keep y'all on point. Everybody has to pay attention because you never know who I'm going to call on, and then keep it moving. Like, I would have gave him a real quick explanation and kept rolling. That's why
Okay, wait. It took her 8 seconds to say what she said. I just want you to think about that. I counted. It took her 8 seconds to say what she said. That's 8 seconds away from instruction. Big deal. Sir, thank you for raising your hand. I have no popsicle sticks.
What if the other kids join the conflict?
So it's called the domino effect. And 8-year-old boys will eat you alive. But the way she said it was cool. And that 8 seconds, that was cool. She's a strong teacher. Yes!
You acknowledge that they have, Johnny, that's a great question. I'll be happy to answer everyone's question after I finish my instruction.
How many agree with that? Okay. In a scenario like that, you're going to get a different possible answer. And what she said was the possible answer, would be the best answer. In your world, because I can see what kind of teacher you are, and you control that group. You have a look, don't you? Right. And all you got to do is let the look. And the kid, no, miss, no. That's your perfect world. You need to address that. That's a good question. Thank you very much. Let's get to that question later. We'll do all the questions later on after we're all done. Thank you guys for being so involved. That's 5 seconds. The goal is to not take away from instruction. Those people are watching you teach bell to bell. In theory, we teach bell to bell. In reality, you don't teach bell to bell because you want to create collaboration. Exactly. So, but you do not want to take away when one child does that because that child's going to watch what you do and then they're going to eat you alive every time they want to question you. She's got the look down. I wouldn't mess with her. Not all of us have the look down. Let's do the next one.
In a 6th grade class, a teacher has suspicion that a student has been defacing school property. Since the student has written similar defacing verbiage on his notebook, what should the teacher do? A, the teacher suspends them.
Now, just reflect quietly for a second. To yourselves. Good. Now we're going to ask it. We're going to pace ourselves. Ready? Here we go. One more time. A.
A, the teacher suspends them.
No. B.
The teacher calls the parents to voice their concerns.
C.
The teacher takes the suspected evidence and suspicion to the administrator.
Raise your hand. Do not comment. Just raise your hand. D.
The teacher approaches the student with their suspicions.
What's your answer?
C.
Good job. Why wouldn't you call the parent?
Because
It's a suspicion. You're not sure if they did it yet.
Be loud.
It's just a suspicion. You're not sure if the student actually did it.
Perfect. It's a cause to effect relationship. Great. Okay, who's next?
A fifth grade student refuses to stop talking while the teacher is presenting the lesson. If the student refuses to stop talking, A, give a nonverbal cue and contact the parent after class. B, do nothing. C, put them in the corner. D, call on the student to answer a question over material just covered.
I vote for C.
Nose on the truck.
No, that's it. That was my day. Okay, that's a good question. Say it one more time. A, B, C. A?
A, give a nonverbal cue and contact the parent after class. B, do nothing. C, put them in the corner. D, call on the student to answer a question over material just covered.
AKA, let's embarrass the heck out of the guy. Good. How many vote for A? What's A?
A is give a nonverbal cue and contact the parent after class.
B.
Do nothing.
Good, that would be stupid. C.
Put them in the corner.
There's three of us going right on, yeah. I got that kid down. D.
Call on the student to answer a question over the material just covered.
Whoa. Continuously talking. Yeah. What's the answer?
A.
A is the answer. Wait. How many people disagree? Please raise your hand. A. Nonverbal cue, contact the parent. Continuously interrupting during instruction. Continuous problem. Key words. Good question. I just want you to just reflect for a second. I know if you want to share some feelings, I'm not going to stop you, obviously. But if you have anything you want to share, that's great. But I just want you to think about these scenarios and the dialogue you heard. Think about this. This is really coming from you. These are real situations. This one was right out of the textbook. Each one can be on that test. Look at your thought process. How you kind of start breaking it down. When you started talking about it, when you heard it, you saw it, you felt it, when you started dialing into it, it's a whole different ballgame now. This test is not a monster. You're ripping this sucker apart. You're making your own questions and scenarios, and that's what you need to do. You're dialed into this process. You're doing great. Think about what makes a great teacher. What's the right answer all the time in a perfect world? If you want to take some notes down, this will help you dial back into how to look at this test. How do you look at this test? Make sense? Here we go. This is crucial. This is like the essence of what you have to know. This is crucial. 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 He said it 3 times. It must be important. Strategies. You need to know strategies. You need to know that there's best practices and there's strategies that you'll have to use and understand. If you see a question and it talks about a procedure, what do they do first? What do they do second? What do they do third? Think perfect world and how that procedure will end up. being effective. It may not be effective when you use it before, it doesn't matter, right? Procedures. The best teachers have the best procedures, right? In high school, my kids went through the same procedure every day. And when they didn't do it, if I didn't play nappy roots, if something didn't happen, they'd come up to me and go, "What's up?" I mean, big old Jerome would come in and go, "Mr. M, I need nappy." Well, I'm not going to mess with Jerome in the first place, but in the second place, he expected that. It's a secure thing. Procedures create security. Procedures create classroom management. You're going to look at a question, you're going to see that question is about a procedure, and you're going to dial right into it. You're going to dial right into it knowing procedures are essential. Procedures. Strategies are best practices. We don't always use best practices because we get thrown for a loop by kids' behavior. Therefore, we react instead of act. That's just teaching. Okay? But you're going to have questions that get you to think about strategies and procedures. Decision set questions. There's scenarios and there's decision set questions. Two different types of questions you're going to see today. You get some information and then you have to fill in the blanks of what the expected outcomes need to be. Not what you think they're going to be, but what they need to be. Not what you think they're going to be, but what they need to be. Does that make sense? Scenarios, decision set. Two types. That's it. So my job in teaching you is to take out the highest frequency types of questions. The number one highest frequency question you're going to have on this test is ESL, ELL. The number one highest frequency types of questions you're going to have is ESL and ELL. These terms we're going to go over are in at least two questions. If there's 90, we know 18 questions are going to be ESL questions already. You memorize the ESL part, you're going to get 16 out of 18 right. Boom. We're chunking this baby, right? We're chunking it. We're chunking it. So, the first chunk is ESL, ELL. And we're going to talk about that specifically. That's one chunk. If there's 18 of them, you're going to get 16 right. That's a beautiful experience for you. How do I study for that? You memorize. I can't tell you there's a trick. And we're going to go over it. These terms are going to be used, and if you don't know these terms in the first place, then you will not get the question right. There's three questions on constructivist model. Constructivist model. The constructivist model means the student is responsible for their learning. The student constructs from the information you give them answers and problem solving. Now, isn't that the most perfect world model ever? I know all the students I ever taught in my world were intrinsically motivated. All of them. 100% of them. And then I woke up from that dream. Constructivist model, students construct information and learn by taking personal responsibility. But I want you to look up constructivist model as well. Interdisciplinary learning or cross-content learning. Interdisciplinary learning or cross-content learning. What is it?
Isn't it like project-based learning where you're learning multiple core classes through one specific?
PBL is not, you're saying that it is, But PBL is hands-on. Cross-content is taking what? What?
Like math, but using science in it as well.
Got it. Reading and social studies. Cross-content or interdisciplinary studies. There's going to be 3 questions just like that, talking about how would you solve this problem? The answer is using cross-content or interdisciplinary learning. So if you know what that is, you're going to go, wow, I know what that is. I now know the answer to this one. Now we're up to like 20 questions. Isn't this cool? You get 18 out of 20 right? This is cool. We're building your percentage up. What's the first one? ELL. Now we're piecing them together. Operant conditioning, behavior modification term, what does it mean? Incentive programs. Positive discipline incentive programs. It's like Pavlov's dogs. You show the food, they salivate. They're going to ask you about classroom management. You know that already. You know classroom management's going to come up on this test, right? So you now know 2 or 3 questions. Think positive. Incentive programs. Think positive. It's a big term for positive reinforcement. You've got to know this. Formal assessment, normative assessment, what other assessment? Summative assessment. 6 questions based on assessment. Knowing the definition of assessments. What's a formal assessment? Raise your hand, tell me, come on. A test. What kind of test? Say it again. Like a what? A STAR test. Just say it, baby. Like the STAR test. Okay? You need to understand the difference between mean, average, and median. Mean, M-E-A-N, average, and median. You're going to have 2 or 3 questions about finding out. And this question is how come, are they have to find the mean, the average, or the median? And if you don't know what that is, you're going to miss that question. Either you know it or you don't. I've broken it down. You need to know these things. Instead of you going through it and tracking the frequency, I did it for you. Rubric. Dear God, 5 questions totally on rubric. You're going to see rubric and rubric. And what about, and how about this one? And this rubric, and what do you use? And this rubric, and this rubric, and this rubric, and rubric. And you're going to sit that test and go, I know what a rubric is. And you're going to figure it out because here's the biggest thing. This test is what you understand. Say it again.
That's how you score, right?
Right, how you score things. How you score things. A rubric. There's several different kind of rubrics, but just know how, when there's a question about rubric, they're going to ask you to look at the data. In this rubric, there's data. And you know, in Texas, one thing drives instruction. What drives instruction? Data. What drives instruction? Data. What drives instruction? Data. That's what I'm talking about, amen. You know there's going to be questions about that. You know that there's going to be at least 3 or 4 questions. Now we're up to 25 questions. You get 22 right, you're solid. Are you following me? Do you see how you're chunking it? You're breaking it down. How many categories? What's the number 1 category? ESL, ELL. Blooms and more blooms. If you don't know blooms, stand up, walk out of the room, and quit teaching. Before you take the PPR, a month before you take the PPR, here's my biggest recommendation. Everybody emails me later on and goes, God, that was so cool. Michael, thank you so much. That was like so smart of you. Thank you so much. I think you're welcome. Because I'm old and I have wisdom. You're going to take a copy of the Bloom's Triangle. You're going to blow it up 2 times. You're going to put it in the wall of your classroom. You're going to put it in the wall of your classroom, and every time you're starting to teach something, you're going to walk over that thing and go, children, babies, I love you. Where are we at right now? What are we doing? We're at this level. We're at this level. You'll memorize that sucker down to a science because you do it. You take that Bloom's, you put it in your classroom, and when your principal walks through, you're going to go like this. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Bonus points in the t-test. Oh, yeah. You're principally blown away. You got your Bloom's up there, you're referring to it. You got your content objective, you got your learning objectives, and then you went one step further and you put your Bloom's up there. That's going to kick butt. And then you're going to memorize Bloom's because you do it every day. And you're going to get all 4 questions right on the test. Now we're up to 29 questions, 30 questions. DI, differentiated instruction. There'll be 2 questions about DI. Kid presents to you with these issues. How are you going to differentiate? Who does not know what DI is? Good. It's probably ingrained in you. Then, of course, RTI, SPED teachers, you know this by heart. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. SPED teachers go this way. Guess what? SPED teachers are only 3 questions max on SPED. I know. It's not fair. Bloom's, 5, 4 to 5, 4 to 6. ESL, 20%, 18 to 20%. That's 90 questions. You're looking at 16 to 18 questions on ESL. You're going to go through this test today and go, oh my God, he wasn't lying to us. You memorize it. You memorize it. Here we go. More terms. Curriculum alignment. There'll be 2 questions about curriculum alignment. What does curriculum alignment mean? Please, somebody tell me.
How your curriculum aligns with the previous grade and the grade after.
2nd to 3rd, 3rd to 4th. That's vertical alignment. Scope and sequence. Everybody knows this, right? Scope and sequence. Got it? 2 or 3 questions on scope and sequence. Now we're up to 35, 36 questions. So we're chunking it together, we're piecing it together. Student progress charts, addressing needs and personal goals. I want to make one caveat on this, okay? You ready? You're going to see a lot of questions, up to 10%, 8, 10 questions, that you have to look at a chart, read the data, okay? And then answer the question based on in a perfect world. So I want somebody to paraphrase that back to me, what I just said.
You have to interpret charts.
Interpret charts. And then I have to do what with those charts?
Give a perfect answer.
Give a perfect answer. And now, are you ready? Everybody, are you ready? Mm-hmm. Are you ready? Yes. Every time a question asks that a student takes personal responsibility in any way, shape, or form, 9 out of 10 times, that's the right answer. Every time you see a response or an answer in these graphs and data that talk about students taking personal responsibility as a choice, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to pick that answer. One more time, just for good luck. Every time you see a question that has an answer that involves a student taking personal responsibility for their growth and their education, that's the answer. Because why? In what? In a perfect world, all your students take personal responsibility. Not one of my students ever, of the thousands I've ever taught, stood up and said, it's my fault. It's always their own fault. They always came to me and took personal responsibility. They apologized. They always came after school for tutoring. Always. I probably taught 5,000 students. 4,999 were perfect. Only one. I remember him to this day. You know that's not true. But we do know that if it's talking about an answer that says personal responsibility for the student, pick it, pick it, pick it. 9 out of 10 times. Now, if it looks like a stupid personal responsibility one, don't pick it. Okay? You'll know it's stupid. Okay, scaffolding. Everybody knows what scaffolding is? Good. Oh, remember, this test is a lot to do about content and teaching, but also about the profession of teaching. And the profession of teaching talks about PLCs, collaboration. Again, in your perfect world, all the science teachers get together, and they all sit down, they all agree, they all go, this is great, I love you too, I love you. And then you solve all the problems in the world. And all the third grade teachers get together, and I love you, and you all solve the problems. In a perfect world, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to answer holding hands and singing Kumbaya. Of course we do this. Of course this works. Of course we do this. And then, of course, English language learners, and a whole lot about them both legally and academically. Legally and academically. What is your legal responsibility to teach them? And then academically to help us. Any questions? How are we doing? We're up to 40 questions, 35 to 40 questions. I've given you each category. How many in each category? I've told you what to look for. The term equals the number of questions. I've broken the test down for you. High frequency, high frequency, high frequency.
Did you say how many you were going to see, or we were going to see on scaffolding and PLC?
Scaffolding, probably about 2 to 3. PLC, about 2 or 3. Good question. Thanks, Bob.
Scope and sequence. I didn't get the number for that one.
Scope and sequence, about 2 or 3. Those categories together, about 15. 5 categories, 2 to 3 each. Okay. There'll be 3 to 4 questions on internet use and the laws surrounding internet use. There'll be 3 to 4 questions on internet use and the laws surrounding internet use. The school-wide policy about internet use. Okay. Parents don't want the kid to use the internet. What do? You have to know it. Copyright material. There'll be 2 to 3 questions on copyright material. What can you make copies of and what you can't. Now we're up to about 42, 44 questions, about halfway. Here's another chunk. Here's a second chunk. Label it professional responsibilities. Label it professional responsibilities. Professional responsibility is about 10 questions. About 10 questions. What are they? What you're ethically, morally, and legally bound to do. What you're ethically, legally, and morally bound to do. There's a whole domain you have to look at. Your ethics, moral, and legal obligations. It's not that hard. You'll look at it. You'll read it about 3 or 4 times before you take the test, and you'll know. What you're legally bound to do. I'm going to give you a scenario. Child comes to school with a bruise on their arm, a 3rd grader. You then look at the bruise on their arm, and you ask them how'd that bruise happen, and they say, I fell down. Do you report, yes or no? Now, how many people say you should report automatically? How many people say you should not report? How many people have no idea what to do? What's the answer? Who knows for sure?
I have a follow-up question. How often does it happen? Yeah, that was the key question.
One time. One time. I'm going to answer it for you. You want something to say? No, you got something to say. Come on. You, then you.
You're legally obligated to report any suspicion. You're not obligated to do the investigation yourself. You just report suspicion.
Honey, stand up one more time. I'm in love with you. Come on.
You're not obligated to investigate the situation. You're only obligated to report the suspicions, but they want you to report it immediately and not talk to anybody else about it.
That's the law. That's the law. You think we're overreacting. Of course you do. When in doubt, report. That's the law. Now, you may think that's stupid. Right.
Any suspicion, so that's subjective. If it happens once, that is not suspicious.
Okay. You're analyzing it. Don't analyze it. Good job. You almost said it verbatim. You had something to say.
It's a bruise. It's a medical issue. Send them to the nurse. Somebody above my pay grade will deal with it.
What? So what are you doing? You're legally doing what?
It's a bruise. Send them to the nurse.
You're legally fulfilling your obligation to report. The nurse then makes that decision whether or not she's going to report. That's another option. What she said is the law. You may not agree. You may think there's a way around it. I understand that. I appreciate you. I'm just telling you, when in doubt, report. Now, your school will have a system in place how you report, too. And if they don't, and you don't know it, you better find out.
If you send them to the nurse and they find out there's child abuse, then you are liable, even if you send them to the nurse.
Yep.
That is
That's
your
it.
responsibility, not the nurse's
That's right.
per the law.
But how do you know it's child abuse? It's just a bruise.
It doesn't matter.
The key words in the law is reasonable suspicion. If you do not have reasonable suspicion, you do not report. If you have reasonable suspicion, as small as it is, you are obligated by law to report it to the appropriate authorities for an investigation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Wait, one more comment. We're going to move on. Yeah, because I'm afraid of her anyways.
In terms of like how everybody's saying like reasonable suspicions and everything, there's also a 48-hour reporting window.
Got it. Talk about that.
You take them to the nurse, you talk about it with the counselor, and you know, like kind of get their way in on it. There's 48 hours. It's not like, hey, if you don't report it, as soon as you see it, you're going to jail. There's a 48-hour window, you know, for you to clear up any misconceptions in your head, battle it with yourself, 48 hours to discuss it before reporting it. So from what I was told, you know, if you're not sure, send them to the nurse, get the counselor involved, and y'all can report together. You know, you can say what you saw, and then they weigh in on their expert opinions, but there's a 48-hour window.
But like she said, it's not to be shared with the parents, other teachers. Don't forget that part. That is a crucial component. Here's my number one suggestion. You're going to have 2 or 3 questions like this. Make sure you know it. Make sure you know it. Okay, here we go. Wait. Code of ethics. Code of ethics. There'll be 3 or 4 questions based on a code of ethics. And it's the code of, I'm going to break it down for you real easily, okay? When they're talking about code of ethics, they're talking about the do's and don'ts of your profession. The do's and don'ts. The one big thing that you need to understand about the code of ethics is that there are boundaries between you and the students. They're going to throw in questions. One of the big things we have an issue with in the state of Texas, more than any other state in America, is we have teachers, mostly women teachers, who have relationships with high school boys. Now, it's a fact. People say, no, it's men that do this. Excuse me, it's 5 to 1, women to men. 5 to 1. And you're thinking, no, that's a sexist thing to say. No. We don't do those things in our code of ethics. We don't have relationships with our students. We don't touch students. We don't hit students. We don't intervene on students without being trained with proper restraint training. We don't do things that put students in harm. And then the second part, or the third part, is confidentiality. We don't talk about students ever with anybody outside of the people who work with that student. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. The confidentiality one's going to come up at least 4 to 5 questions. How do you answer these? When in doubt, say no. Just whatever answer says no, we don't share, is the answer. This mom wants to know about tutoring. No. Go talk to somebody else. Tutoring, sharing tutoring with another. Can I get a name of a student who's also doing tutoring? No. There'll be questions like this. A parent is asking you about who else is going to tutoring. And can I get the names of those students? The answer is no. Okay? Parent contacts and involvement. Again, I don't want to sound redundant, but I want to be redundant. Anytime you see questions on parent contact and involvement, 9 out of 10 times, what are you going to do? The second most frequent asked category of question, besides ELL, is parent involvement. Second highest frequency. 10 questions, 12. Some tests, 8, some tests, 12. Now we're up to about 55, 60 questions. 2/3 of the test. You've chunked into categories. You know the category. You know what you've got to do to get to that category. And you know how to address that. Any questions so far? New category, professional responsibilities chunked into confidentiality and legal ethics and morals and values.